Hello, this is Sarah Reed, and I'm going to read a bit from the opening of my nominated debut novel, The Bone Weaver's Orchard. Dunley Abbey, North Yorkshire, 1926. Charlie Winslow pressed his teeth together to keep them from cracking as the car grated along the stone lane to the ancient abbey. His fresh pine tack box weighed heavily on his bony knees. The glass jars inside clinked and rang like small bells. He tried to keep them steady, imagining the terror in the hundreds of eyes inside. "You must be even colder than I am." He pulled a yellow linen scarf from his neck, untangling it from the length of twine that suspended his numbered card. He held the scarf briefly to his nose and breathed deeply before lifting the lid of his box and tucking the cloth carefully around his specimens. The scenery outside his window had changed from sweeping fields to dry brush and stone, wind-swept shrubs that seemed to want to tear themselves up from the land. "Their roots are strong, deep. Maybe this wind will carry me away." The great stone edifice emerged from the rock in the moor, black against the sky. At the center of the roof a tower rose, its bell a silhouette in its carven frame. Lit windows dotted the abbey's long corridor arms, stretching across dark lawns. They have electric lights. His gaze traced the shape of the building by their glow. One wing remained dark, windows black and empty, so the whole of it was nearly invisible in the darkness until its shadow stretched across the car. Charlie peered up at its stained bricks and shuddered. The driver slowed the car, and the millstone wheels ground to a halt in the gravel. The man snugged his cap down tight against the wind and got out. Charlie heard the crash of his trunk hitting the stones. His door sprang open, and a rush of cold stole his breath. "Does they need help with your case?" the driver asked, reaching for the pine box. "No." Charlie gripped the rough wood closer to his chest and slid from the seat to the drive. He swayed, unaccustomed to the sudden stillness around him. He'd been a body in motion for months, from Cairo to Algiers to sea, through the straits, north and north and north again, colder and colder to Portsmouth, then by train, north and colder, through London and York, then in the car, north again and colder still to these dark moors and the reaching stone arms of the Old Cross School for Boys. His body didn't know how to be still. He tried to steady himself and felt the driver's hand on his shoulder. "Watch the sun up the steps, lad. Pull the bell, and Miss Mary will see thou'rt fed and warmed." He nudged Charlie toward the tall door. The wind shrieked, plucking Charlie's battered tag from the twine around his neck and carrying it off into the dark. His heart leapt as if to chase it, until he remembered he didn't need it any more. "Don't lose your tag," his father had said. "It's how they'll get you to the right place." From where he was standing, the school seemed to take up the whole sky. He couldn't even see any stars. How can this be the right place? The gravel became flagstones, and the stones became stairs, as the face of the old abbey towered over him. In the shelter of those rough stones, the howl of wind quieted to a distant moan. Charlie felt the cold of the stone through his shoes. He hoisted his box and imagined he could hear the enraged scurrying of 1,000 chitinous legs. He squeezed it to his chest and hoped his heartbeat might calm them, that his body might somehow keep them warm in the icy wind. He pulled the bell with his teeth. The car's guttural engine idled as the driver waited to confirm that his charge had been delivered. Charlie rested his chin on the pine, caught a whiff of its bitter freshness, and wondered if the jars inside might have saved him one last breath of Cairo. The door's hinges screamed, and a seam of light appeared in the center of its wide panel. Charlie started, straightened, and knew that the hammering of his heart would only stir his charges more. The car pulled away, digging into the gravel and vanishing into the dark. The headlamps shrank to pinpricks across the moor. Charlie felt as though the lifeline was being unwound from his heart. A lean woman in a black dress stood behind the door. Her pinched face was lit in flickering silhouette from a nearby candle. Her small eyes darted from Charlie to his box to the worn trunk on the stones behind him. "Term doesn't start for days yet," she said, holding the door as if to close it again. "Wait, ma'am, I don't have anywhere else to go, or any way to get there if I did." Charlie's back was beginning to ache from the heavy box. The woman's thin lip curled. "The village is 3 miles down the lane. This isn't a hotel. Someone there will take you in." Please, I don't know anyone in the village. I don't even know what it's called. I've just come from Cairo, where my father... He sent me away. He sent me here." Charlie felt his face began to heat. If he'd had any money, he'd have turned and walked those 3 miles and bought a ticket south, as many tickets south as it took to get back to his father. The pinched woman sighed. "I guess you'd best come inside. I'll send someone for your trunk." She opened the door wide, and Charlie stepped through the stone arch into the school. The door swung shut behind him with a bang like a fortress cannon. "Your name?" The woman in black lifted her candle from a small stand that supported a marble bust. The side of the statue's face was blackened as if by 100 brief encounters with the candle. "Charlie Winslow," he said. "Wait here. I'll find where you're meant to go," she said, and left, taking the light with her. "No, you won't. Not here." He'd never felt so out of place before. In the darkness he felt the heaviness of stone all around him like a tomb. He felt the hollowness of the long halls, cold as a lost knife and dark as a throat. The rustling inside his box sounded like a whisper. That is the opening of my novel. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Donna Lynch, and I am coming to you from my home in Maryland on day 35 of self-isolation, and I'm not crazy yet, or not crazier than usual. So I'm going to read to you from my book, Choking Back the Devil. This is called You Alone. The most terrifying thing is when you come to understand that you are not haunted, there is no demon in you, and monsters are not real. There is no catastrophic storm inside your heart, no ancient war being fought with your bones. There is no curse upon your bloodline, no debt that must be paid, no devil's trick. But that you are only you, and you alone are responsible for the damages incurred. This is sacrifice. We hear the witch come in, shuffling and scraping, but by the time we do, it's often too late, at least for some of us. We are too many with too few places to hide. It's always a small foot slipped from beneath a bed, or a lock of hair spilling from behind a cupboard door, that last little body that couldn't quite fit. That's the one who goes. We do not know what she does with us. Maybe our insides get eaten. Maybe our hair and teeth become decorations and talismans. Maybe our bones are used to etch symbols on doors of homes, cursing those inside. We do not know, for we are not witches, but discarded children who once believed that fairy tales about witches were folly, and horror only came from starvation and shadowy men on the streets. But we know better now. Then one night, after the smallest and sweetest among us was taken, someone remembered a fable about mice and a cat. The cat was taking them one by one at night, but if they put a bell about his neck, they'd hear him coming sooner. They'd have more time to hide. It was a grand idea, everyone agreed, but begged the question, who would bell the cat? So we bit our lips and glanced around, and it was decided that the oldest among us should choose who would bell the witch. I am the oldest. I am the one who will make the decision. I am the one who will send a trembling child into her terrible mouth to save the rest, just as I am the one who gathers the children every time the witch comes. I do my best to hide them all, but I know there will always be the one who doesn't fit. And as I gather them, I know which one it will have to be. I am the one who chooses. And so I look among these tiny faces, their eyes brimming with tears and nightmares. I make my decision and silently wonder who it is that will someday need to bell me. This is called Woman. I hate the woman who stands at the edge of my woods, for many reasons, not the least being that she doesn't really stand. She hangs, not by a rope, not by her neck, but like a tree limb, heavy with water, battered down by rain. No shoes on her muddy feet. There's nothing in her dirty hands and nothing in her hollow eyes but thick, wet strands of matted hair. Her skin is broken. I can see the cuts and bites from here, as though animals attack her every night. Her clothes are barely there. She doesn't speak, she doesn't cry, she just gazes at my house every night until the dawn, when she turns and walks back into the trees. Once I tried to give her a story, a narrative to make me less afraid. Maybe she's looking for help, held captive and tortured as her wounds would imply. Even if she were a ghost, I would be less afraid, but no history fits her. Something won't let it. Something inside eats the words, which is why I hate the woman who stands at the edge of my woods, but I'll hate her more when she knocks on my door. This is It Just Wasn't Your Night. It wasn't your face or your hair or your legs. It wasn't that you reminded me of anyone, not my mother, not a lover or sister. It wasn't that you ever spurned me, nor the way that you carelessly let your cigarette burn down, all the way into crumbling ashes and embers. It wasn't any small detail or anything tangible. It wasn't a look you gave me or anyone. It wasn't the phase of the moon or a terrible voice. You were just there when the gnawing inside me turned into vicious biting, when the switch flipped and all my lights went out, when I had no choice but to seize the moment. You were there. You were there, and it just wasn't your night. Hunger. I ate your hands that I might have your strength, your mouth that I might finally speak, your heart to steal your bravery. I'll eat the rest once you're asleep. And this is choking back the devil. I am choking back the devil with every kiss and every cry. I will have to swallow harder until my mouth is dry. He made his home inside me, I no longer wonder why. He slipped in slowly, deeply, hollowed me completely, with no regret or mercy, no deception or disguise. When I'm pushing, he is pulling. When I'm silent, he is speaking. When I'm screaming, he is clawing at my throat. He guides my hands and moves my tongue until the thirsty work is done, and the cities are on fire and the exits are all locked. You cannot know, I cry, what it is to be consumed by something so inviting that will bite until you're gone. So I am choking back the devil, and it tastes of blood and brine. I will have to swallow harder until my mouth is dry. Thank you. Everybody stay safe and healthy.